The story from the 2002 G8 protest in Calgary was that there wasn't any story. No property damage, no violence, and only a handful of arrests. Nothing compared to the anti-globalization spectacles of the previous years. But why didn't it happen? Why did the protesters come to the streets? And what were the ideas that brought them there? Take a quick look into 1 week of a protester's experience and language. In Kananaskis, the 8 most powerful leaders in the world met to discuss the policies of globalization. Protesters followed. The critical mass ride began it all, with a few hundred cyclists arriving from across the West to take over the streets.
If you take a frog and put it in a boiling pot of water, the frog knows to get out. Otherwise it dies. But if you put a frog in a cold pot of water and you slowly heat that water up until it boils, the frog sort of slips into this blissful state of contentment and ends up dying happy. And that's kind of what's happening to our planet right now. There's a lot of scaremongering going on in the press right now. That these crazy activists are, well, we might be crazy, but these violent activists are showing up and are going to wreak havoc on the city of Calgary. And that's simply not true. We're here to deliver our message in a creative and fun way.
In the past, the protests have all been single issue, specific kinds of protests. You know, the war in Vietnam, let's end that and we'll all be happy. You know, the problems in Nicaragua with the Contras, let's end that and we'll all be happy. Everything, you know, God will be in his heaven and all will be right with the world. Now people are fighting for a change, a systemic change in the way the world is organized and the way the economies are organized and the way that wealth is distributed and in the revision of our attitudes towards social justice. This is a revolution. This is a revolutionary attitude, and it's brought all those other kinds of concerns together under one umbrella.
While Calgarian police planned for 60 potential events, the city had only given out 1 permit for 1 protest, and the Family March was it. So it became the only guaranteed safe event, encouraging any who were questioning the choices their leaders were making, but weren't prepared to put themselves in legal or physical danger, to come and voice their concerns. This atmosphere was broken days before, with media warnings of violence. Activists were already writing the legal team number on their arms, so they could call if everything else was taken away in custody. Preparations for the summit included emptying 450 hotel rooms in Kananaskis and 400 jail cells in Calgary. Despite the risk, thousands arrived to voice their opinions in their various fashions. Among them were labor unions, environmental groups, and political parties, punk rock musicians and soccer moms, grassroots and church groups, self-proclaimed anarchists, anti-capitalists, and a choir of raging grannies. It was 3 days from the start of the summit, and the tensions would only rise from here.
I'm fed up with the neoliberal world Nazi organization.
You look at this nonsense, people boarding up windows and so forth, a big scare and a big panic, all lends to the hype. What the hell are they going to accomplish in 2 days that they probably haven't already accomplished elsewhere in talking? Now, give me a break. 2 days and they're supposed to solve the world's problems? I think they're out here for a camping trip.
When I've been riding the C train and stuff, I've gone in conversations with people almost every time, and they're like, so what do you? They ask things like, so what do you think you're doing here? You think you're actually going to make a difference? Or are you just going to wreck my city?
Canada, forget the world, help us. What percent of your government money, of your paychecks, will pay it for the fooding and housing of every street person in Canada? What percent? We gotta stand up and say power to the people.
That smells like pork around here.
It smells like pork.
Freedom for our rights. The cops are taking them away every day. They want to make homelessness illegal. That is 68 million people in Canada alone.
My civil rights are being screwed. I just lost a relationship with a woman because me doing what I believe in and freely speaking my mind meant she'd lose any contact with her kids. I'm fed up with the neoliberal world Nazi organization. Pardon my language, but I got a message for the G8 leaders. World Nazi punks, fuck off.
One of the key objectives for the security group is to have a safe and secure summit, and it's important that we, in doing that, work with demonstrators so that they're able to get their point across. There is a policy where it's required that police officers have a name tag and that they show their name tag. And so if there isn't a police officer with a name tag, all that has to be done is people bring that to that officer's attention or to the supervisor.
Demonstrators say you know the police are going to do something illegal if they aren't wearing identification. Remember that. In the wake of September 11th, security was a top issue for the 8 leaders running the world, emphasized by a 6-kilometer military zone around them. Security was also a hot issue for the G8 counter-conference, named the G6B. It stands for the 6 billion other humans on the planet that were not invited to Kananaskis. They voiced their response to the changes in security with a forum on the criminalization of dissent.
As a strategy and as a moral stand, civil disobedience is quite effective. And the more we engage in it, the greater the power of example, the more people will feel the need to also take their stand. In Canada, the definition of terrorism, terrorist action, terrorist groups is being expanded to include groups that are engaging in legitimate politics.
I got the gap! Stop sweatshops! Boycott the gap!
You know, it's funny, I got to drive downtown tomorrow, and I'm thinking, I wonder if these guys are going to try and tip over my car.
Check out www.indiemedia.org if you want to find out what the news really is, and that's indie with a Y, I-N-D-Y, media.org, and that's the best place to get news that's not from corporate sources that are inherently biased and won't tell you the straight goods. If you read about the International Monetary Fund and the WTO and the G8 and really see the other side of what they're doing and don't just read their propaganda and you're still for it, you know, freedom of opinion. But you should still find out.
This is what democracy looks like. A democracy is not a spectator sport! The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated.
The thing is, a lot of people don't even know about it, and the purpose of these protests is to make people aware of it. The people who actually make the clothing are earning 11 cents an hour. They live in poverty. When they ask for a raise, they mysteriously disappear.
The boosters of global corporate capitalism like to say their slogan is, a rising tide lifts all boats. That as long as the economy is expanding and expanding, everybody's going to be getting better and better. Well, we say that shows they're not only unclear in the economy, they're actually unclear in the concept of tide. Because no tide actually rises forever. If it does, it's a disaster.
Starhawk was one of the many counterculture celebrities that came to the event, including a veteran of Seattle, Quebec City, and a punk rock band named the Dead Kennedys. Jello by Afro.
Stay in your homes. Do not attempt to contact loved ones, insurance agents, or attorneys. Shut up. Be happy. Obey all orders without question. Shut up. The comfort you've demanded is now mandatory. I want to feel safe from terrorism too. But I get equally frightened when people like George Bush say things like, "You're either with us or with the terrorists." Some choice. I mean, part of the reason a lot of us are here for the G8 summit is to say, yo, we are not with Bush or the terrorists.
The Stink March had no planned route, schedule, or permit. a protester's risk of being arrested was estimated at about 50%.